I'm super not good at handyman stuff. I'm fine-ish, but when it comes to the particulars, I'm like, I don't care enough to learn. So I went to get my kid to mow the lawn the other day, and the lawnmower, which is very old and also super racist because its name is Tecumseh. I don't know if you're familiar with Tecumseh. I'll just quickly show you what I'm talking about here. Tecumseh, and I'm probably saying that completely incorrectly, was a Shawnee chief and warrior who promoted resistance to the expansion of the United States onto Native American lands. Tecumseh traveled widely, forming a Native American confederacy and promoting the intertribal unity. Although his efforts to unite Native Americans ended with his death in the War of 1812, he became an iconic folk hero in American, Indigenous, and Canadian popular history. Assuming it's honkies that made the lawnmower, feels a little weird to be making a lawnmower and naming it after a Native American warrior who died. I don't know. That just feels weird to me. Anyways, so my hate crime of a lawnmower. My kid went to start it up and it wasn't starting at all. It would start. It would go. So I was like, okay, allow me. I can start this better than you, which is stupid because the starting it's a pull start, so you just do that. There's no way to do that better. But so it was doing the same thing to me, and I was like, oh, it's fucked. And it's old. I know it's old. Like, it's been around for a long time. So I was like, it's probably dead. I sent a note to my landlord, and he was like, listen, it's possible that, did you put new gas in? And I was like, no. I think my elder kid filled it up with old gas. And sure enough, when you think about it, gasoline breaks down over time. It has a shelf life of like 3 months, which is why it's so fucking hilarious when you see Americans filling up giant containers full of gasoline, because that'll stay. Just make sure you burp the Tupperware lid first, right? That'll work. Anyways, the gasoline that was in the jerry can was from a year ago, and it was definitely dead. So that's the issue, most likely. So he just needed to get into. I had drained it for him, but he wanted to get in, take a look at it, make sure it wasn't broken. Turns out it's pretty broken already. He was saying that the thing with the doodle hoopers, it's one of those ones where you pull the little thing and there's a wire that attaches to the throttle. That wire is like super corroded and worthless, and it barely moves. And he's like, yeah, I'll get you a new one. So yay, new lawnmower days. It's weird being a guy in this world and not being good at handyman shit. But I'm not. I'm not a handy person, and I'm 100% okay with that. It's based on the fact that I could be a handy person. I certainly like the process of problem solving an electrical thing is exactly the same as the process of problem solving software. And I do a lot of that in my day-to-day life. Essentially what you're looking at is you when you have a problem, you follow it down the chain and try to understand where the problem is existing, and then you can switch out things. I'm not super mechanical, but I mean I can change washers, I can screw things, like a lot of this is not impossible. The thing that makes somebody good at this is just experience. And in some cases, certainly there are people who are more more adept at trades, jobs, or what have you, than I would be. But that doesn't mean that that I'm like a weird freak. That makes me think in a different direction. I'm totally fucking ADHDing right now, but lawnmower to this. I did an intelligence test a while back, and I thought it was really interesting, actually. It was from the UC Berkeley, if I'm not mistaken. And they broke it into 8 different kinds of intelligence. It's one of the problems with IQ tests is that they look at one thing. They try to look at a bunch of things, but they give you one number for, you are this smart. And I always do really well on intelligence tests. I am a fairly sort of smart person, but it's not a valid statement to say that I'm actually like smart and good and awesome. The sort of brutal truth is that intelligence has many facets. They broke intelligence down into 8 different categories, and I did the test, and I show up amazingly in most categories, like 90th percentile in most categories, which is in line both with what my pathetic ego tells me, but also with what standardized tests in the past have told me, that I am very smart. The one exception, so I'm like 94, 93, 89, 14% on geospatial reasoning. And this is absolutely true. I am a fucking idiot at Tetris and things like that. When we're packing gear to, go play a gig, Dongo does the packing of gear. I do the lifting of all the heavy bits and pieces, and I bring it over to him, and then he puts it in the truck or whatever we're moving stuff with. Because I am a fucking idiot at that. I absolutely am. I have zero skill. I've learned how to sort of fake it because I've moved so many times and I've been a mover. So I can stack boxes and stuff. But when it comes to the more grown-up use of your brain, when it comes to that, I'm terrible. I am absolutely terrible. So yeah, when I say I'm not handy, the geospatial reasoning is a big part of that. But the other big part of it is the fact that I have a career that's in a different direction, and I don't have the patience to understand all of the component parts. So the way that my mind works, let's say I'm replacing a toilet flushing system, or I have a problem with my toilet flushing system. I have a choice. I can look at this piece of hardware that is something that's probably not infinitely complex, and I can say, this is infinitely complex. This is hard for me. I need to understand it. So I can actually break it down, read all the books, and understand the components and how they work together and all that kind of stuff, because that's how my brain would require me to do it. Or I can call up a friend and say, hey, can I give you a few dollars and you just do this for me? And that's a lot easier and a lot more in line with my idea that, fuck it, why would I care? Not to be dismissive, the role that other person is playing is fucking huge and way important, and I genuinely appreciate them doing it because it avoids my having to struggle with geospatial reasoning and all the other things. Not handy is often about having zero interest in those kinds of things. 100% agree. I invest my time and energy in things other than that. I'm quite okay with finding someone who is handy and does invest time in it and pay them to do it for me and feel just as manly, whatever that means. You're a man, so you should know this stuff. Seems somehow man-shaming, but we don't get to say that. We actually do. I say that all the time when I see these stupid memes about like, if your man doesn't have or doesn't know what this Torco Rencho is, then you probably got a girlfriend. I'm always like, you know what? Fuck you. I don't know what a torque wrench. I understand what a torque wrench is, but there's probably a million tools that I have no idea about. I'm never gonna know about, and I'm never gonna care about because it's not important to me as a person. Does that reduce my manliness? No. There's a lot of things that one could argue reduce my manliness, and you could say that's one of them. And eventually, I'm sure you could figure out that I'm just not a real man. I'm a little teeny tiny girl, which of course is a massive insult. Who wants to be a lady girl? But yeah, that perspective is just, it's an asshole perspective, and it's wrong. I do believe that, first off, there is no this is a man thing and this is a woman thing. Second off, when we prop up these archetypes and be like, oh yeah, if you don't know how to, change a car tire, I know how to change a car tire. But if you don't know how to change a car tire, then you're somehow not a man. Well, fuck that. You can still be a man. You can still provide for your family. You can still whatever. And you could also be a man who has no handy skills, has no idea, can't provide for a family. You're still a man. That's the gender that you identify with. And I use those words specifically. Let's see. Gronk laugh at man who know obvious man stuff. Gronk laugh. Absolutely, Gronk laugh indeed. I just think it's like a huge failing of the way that we are as a society, that we feel that um, anyone's worth as the gender that they identify as comes down to a few key things. You know, in my life, I am not handy. I don't drive. I've never driven, and that's a decision I made a long time ago where I'm quite content. Um, a lot of the manly man things that people think about, I don't do. Even biochemically, I'm not all that manly. I got these boobs. Something I don't typically talk about is these boobs are post-surgery. Yes, I had breast reduction surgery when I was in my early 20s. For reasons I don't understand and never will. I was born with a condition called gynecomastia, which didn't rear its ugly head until about high school when puberty struck. And it's not like I had, like, holy shit, man, nice boobs. But I had, like, perky little nipples and shit. And when I got bigger, they got bigger and stuff. They were never, like, no one would have looked at me and thought, hey, is that a girl or a guy? But I knew they were there. I was real fucking aware of them. And they weren't just fat, they were actual breast tissue. The process of going through this was really embarrassing. And that's why I don't talk about this, because I really don't like talking about it. But I had, word on the street was you could get surgery for this. And I had gone to see my doctor when I was, first experiencing this, and he's like, oh yeah, that's gynecomastia. It's normal during puberty. It'll go away when puberty's done. And that was the thing that he said all the way through until I was like in my early 20s, graduated college. And I finally was like, dude, when is puberty gonna be done? Because I feel like this isn't helping and this isn't changing. And he was like, oh yeah, we could probably, fix that for you. It's a surgery, because it is, it's technically a cosmetic surgery, but it's covered for, it was covered for me by Alberta Healthcare. And when I did that, they did a whole bunch of stuff. They did some testing of my blood for things like testosterone and estrogen. And I have a very high estrogen content. I don't know what causes that. They were like, that's probably why you're infertile. And I was like, oh, I'm fucking fertile. And I did a stream once about having had to go for squeeze tests before. And by squeeze tests, I mean squeeze tests. And I actually have a very healthy, high sperm count, like normal levels for 10, 15, 20 years ago. So that is bizarre because I have a higher level of estrogen than normal people should, and like substantially higher. So I don't know. I've never done the DNA evaluation. Maybe I'm somehow intersex. Maybe I have some genetic thing that makes me produce more estrogen. Who fucking knows? I don't even care. It's not a thing. The only time it ever comes up is when I'm embarrassing myself on stream, or when I take my shirt off in front of people and there are tiny, almost invisible, but there are tiny scars from the surgery. Men being shitty to other men and playing the dominance game doesn't bother me much anymore. I still find non-men who look at me weird if I can't do something, and given the current cultural climate of diversity, inclusion, and equality of opportunity, I find this puzzling, he says cautiously. I don't disagree. There are still people who will, when they find out that, the number one thing when people find out I don't drive is they go, oh, like ever? And what they're actually trying to say, and if you press them, they will eventually admit, is the assumption isn't that I have chosen never to drive, because that's just crazy. It's that I must have driven drunk and got caught. That's what people's sort of de facto perspective would be. When I say I don't, I'm not a handy person, people will look at me like I'm lesser. And not everybody, most people don't give a shit, but some will. That whole story I just told you about the gynecomastia, I guarantee you that there are people who, if they saw that, would be like, this explains a lot about why Jim isn't manly enough. Fine, I'm not a man. I'm some weird lady boy. And you know what? If that is true, if at the genetic level I am maybe I'm like, XYX or who knows. So the fuck what? I'm a human being. I'm fine. I'm me. I'm good with it. And if you don't like it, there is a dick you can suck. And it's mine. And it's real. I do have one. Why did I bring up the handy thing? It had to do with the lawnmower. This is why the irrelevant tangents that I take are so challenging. And then have to try and come back to where they were. Want to become famous? Buy followers, primes, and viewers on whatever. Kind of thinking about, you're blocked. Oh, look at that. I don't know what the fuck that was. Some spam on my Twitch. Anyways, the point is, be good to people. Who gives a shit? I just think there's so much more worthwhile shit that we could worry about than if I'm manly enough to swing a hammer. I just don't care. Yeah, and people might think I'm being dismissive of things like plumbing. It's not that I'm being dismissive. It's actually complicated and requires a level of knowledge and education to do it properly. I don't have that knowledge and education, and I don't have the interest to get it in order to fix my toilet, so I just ask a friend. Why would that be a thing? I don't know. First off, I want to say thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed, please like and subscribe. It really does help me out. Thank you to my patrons that support me on Patreon. I am a little streamer, and these people are all really awesome for supporting me. First, to the followers, those diabolical souls who hear the words and give of themselves, your faith shall be rewarded. Thank you to I Am Canadian. My next tier is the prophets, those who receive the whispered truths before the masses, who hear the word and speak it smugly before other people get to. Special huge thanks go to my one prophet, Shithead Dave Anderson. And of course, my final tier of supporters is the gods. This tier is the most expensive and likely to never have any members, but Patreon really told me I should have one, so it's true, I guess. There are no gods. If you want to be a patron, head over to www.patreon.com/BigUglyJim and sign up, and you too can get a hearty, rousing, full of love thanking. I try to put up stuff at least once a week, and I live stream every Saturday at noon Mountain Time on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook, like an old man. Again, thanks for watching, and have a kick-ass day.